Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and we are back again for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And with me this evening, I have another amazing guest. She's been on the show before, but hey, sometimes you got to bring back repeat guests. It's been a busy week, busy 2 weeks. As you remember last week, my guest basically ran the show until the last 10 minutes. But it is what it is. We're back this week with another full episode. And if you hang around for about 10 seconds, I promise we most definitely will be right back. And we're back. See, that doesn't take long. Please inform me if my audio goes out or if there's any issues. I'm testing a new setup, so hopefully we can get on with the show and there's no problems. But saying that, welcome this evening, Will K. I'm not going to butcher his last name, even though I worked with him in the past. Will, how you doing this evening, man?
Doing well, man. Excited to be back and impart some random knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good show. I think we have a lot to talk about, especially about career paths in cybersecurity, because there's so many different avenues, and in 2025, things are changing every single day, and it's really getting to the point, especially with all the layoffs, kind of what route do people have to go? So I guess, my first question for you is, because I know you've been going through some things. As someone who's been in the industry for a while, what's the outlook look like for you on your behalf?
Oh man, it's it's funny. I was talking to some people last night, and we all know people trying to get into the industry, and then you got folks like me who are like old and in the industry, and that's really where the challenge is. Like the hardest place to be is like just on the outside trying to get in, or been here way too long and costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so like I saw somebody talking today about all the federal layoffs and how there's going to be a flood of talent. And I will all of us, well, you and I, and we all know lots of people who have worked federal military backgrounds. I will withhold my opinions on any of that.
Yeah.
As far as what that talent level is actually going to look like, but there's already a lot of people looking for work.
Yeah, but when I look at it, and I don't want to dismiss new people entering the field, because I think that we most definitely need them. But the problem I have is we see on a regular basis, there's millions of jobs available, or thousands, or the list goes on. The number changes all the time. But the reality of it is it a problem of they're seeing false jobs? Is it not enough education? Is it like, where is the problem that we consistently see millions of people for entry-level jobs, millions of job openings for entry-level jobs, but yet nobody can find a job?
Yeah. So it's funny. I chatted with some people in the recruiting and analyst world about this just recently. So there's a couple of answers to that question. One, this whole idea that there are millions of unfilled jobs is basically propaganda.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've talked to CISOs who are like, I don't understand anybody who leads a security team and says they can't find people. He's like, if I need somebody, I can go find him in like 2 weeks. And I know lots of recruiters, the good ones, right, who will tell me if I can give them a job description, they'll have somebody in a couple of weeks. Talented people, right? So the idea, one, I think a lot of what we're seeing is the organizations who profit from training or seminars or education or certifications, they're constantly using whatever data they can to say, hey, come join our industry. I saw one today that said there's a 0% unemployment rate in cybersecurity, which was just ludicrous, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's
how many layoffs, literally, between the federal layoffs recently, Meta laid off like some ridiculous amount of people.
Right.
Like, we see companies all the time laying people off. So to say there's a 0% unemployment rate is utterly ridiculous.
So there's that. And then the other part is just the fact that, like, again, as I'm talking to younger folks who are trying to get in, not a lot of commercial organizations have a way for you to become an entry-level person, right?
Yeah.
You have to, like, I've kind of steered a lot of people to look at public sector, and which is the government, but not the federal government, because public sector tends to have a problem keeping talented staff because they don't pay a lot, but they actually have apprenticeship programs. They actually have internships, right? Finding internships is super hard. So, being able to like, the hardest part about the industry is being able to just get into it. But once you're there, like, that's where I'm like, okay, now you need to start thinking about, like, how are you going to stay here? How are you going to hang around, and what are you going to do next?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more because you know me, I'm real big on mental health and motivation. So we will dig into that a little bit more. And I just put it up, but I'll put it up again. Natalie's comment. I think the other issue is we have all these different job boards. So there's so many job boards posting the exact same job and same position. So it makes it seem like there's more jobs than there actually are.
Yeah, and you got to be super careful with that. And again, depending on where you're at from a experience level, what I have experienced, like in my last recent job search, which took way longer than it should with somebody's network like I have, I didn't get a single interview where I didn't know somebody who got me in the door to have that interview. And even then, I usually kind of had to hound people and make it happen.
Yeah.
And then because what happens a lot of times is we see the job get posted, and literally they already have somebody picked out for that role. They're kind of doing their HR requirements for posting this job externally, or they may not be serious about it, or they have these
especially from our level. Like at our level, once you hit that leadership level of manager, director, and up, 9 times out of 10, they know who they want to fill that role, and they either have them internally. It may be someone external, but either way, 9 times out of 10, they know who they're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. And then the lower level, they're looking for crazy unicorns. So yeah. I went on an RFP call this week, and they showed the job description, and I didn't understand it at all. It was like it was a security architect, but it was also like some specific CRM products that they let. And I asked them, I said, are you looking for the security architect role, or are you looking for somebody who's familiar with this product and access controls? And they were like, well, both ideally. And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, well, those are 2 different jobs. So you're going to search for 8 months, and then you're going to find somebody who you should have figured out in the first place. You should have cut half those requirements out and said, this is what you need. Yeah. And then your project's going to be behind the ball. So
yeah, but I think we see that a lot is, looking for a needle in a needle stack.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that phrase was tossed around a lot the past week for me, but it's true where, I and again, I don't want to discourage anybody from breaking into cybersecurity. We need all the talent we can get. But understand that unless you know someone or start networking, getting through ATS systems, getting through some of these recruiters that don't know what they're looking for, because they were just giving handed a list of requirements from HR or
a manager who didn't know what he needed.
Yeah, like something of like, oh, go look for this. It's one of those things where knowing someone gets you through the door. Yeah. It gets you, at least past ATS, past that initial recruiter. When you know someone, half the time the recruiter calls you and just goes, look, you're already getting through the interview. Can you answer these questions? And you're like, yep, okay, cool, move along. So
and it's resilience too. Like you said, like I think the biggest thing you need if you're trying to get in right now is to, I say this a lot, know what you want to do, but be willing to do anything, right? Like you may want to work in the SOC, but if you've got an opportunity to get a help desk job, manage, servicing point of sale systems for retail, take it.
I mean, especially for someone brand new to a career, like, and I think too often we discredit the IT side of things. We discredit GRC. Let's be fair. A lot of people do.
Both places I love started, GRC by personally. The way.
What'd you say?
Both of those places where I started, by the way.
I didn't start in GRC, but I most definitely started in IT. I got my start in help desk. And And I think people discredit that and they want to jump and be like, all right, I got my degree in cybersecurity. I should be able to break right in. I think in my eyes, right, the way I view some of these hiring practices that are going on, especially for junior roles, where it's like, oh, you need 5 to 10 years experience, which isn't a junior role. But what I think they mean, and this is just my interpretation of it, is you need experience in IT, help desk, system administration, network, something that shows you have some foundational understanding of the technology and of the career fields at large. Do I disagree with that method? Oh, absolutely. Like if you're going to put experience in what, right? If you're looking for a junior analyst and say, I need experience, say experience in managing Windows operating systems and, being a system administrator, something along those lines would go a lot further than just say, hey, 5 to 10 years experience in this role.
Yeah, it will. And I'm 100% with you. Like, I'm a big fan of, I've had people who are in school studying some technology path or another and asked me, I don't want to learn how to code. Should I just drop out and get an IT job? And I'm like, yeah, don't waste hundreds of thousands of dollars getting a degree that's not going to be relevant. And I feel bad because like right now it sucks. It's going to be a struggle. But 10 years from now, you're going to be so happy that you didn't pay debt. And then 10 years from now, all of the people who are, everybody who's in elementary school and high school right now is going to be getting in the market. They're going to realize how little that type of education matters. But you still need those fundamentals. You do need to understand. You need to understand how networking works, how applications work, how infrastructure is built. Like you can't just be. I mean, I say part of that because I've had these conversations in LinkedIn before. Like you can look at like a 300 level class from a major university and read the syllabus, and it's flyover material. It's not going to teach you what you need to know to go to work every day.
Dude, I went through 2 semesters for my master's degree, and then when I PCS from the Army from Virginia to Kansas, from Fort Belvoir to Fort Riley, they didn't have an online course at the time, so I just dropped it. I was like, whatever, I ain't finishing this. But I didn't want to anyways, because the entire course started like my first course for my master's degree was an intro to cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? I'm like, I've been doing this job. I literally have more certifications and understanding of what it is. Like, I was like, this is pointless, and legitimately got into arguments with my instructor who claimed, that she was with NSA and CIA and FBI and had all these accreditations, and yet we were going over the difference between an IPS and an IDS. And I said, all right, let me ask you a question. I said, if you have an attacker breaking into a system and they get faced with an IPS, right? Something's blocking them. They're going to know something's in their way. Would they not know an IPS is there? And her answer to every question I asked, firewalls, IPSs, everything. Well, it depends on how much money you spend. No, it doesn't. It legitimately doesn't. If there is a technology, and I literally trained to be a hacker. I know what I see.
Most of the technologies are all basically the same.
I was like, look, an IDS is mirror traffic. We all know it is detection only, not
prevention. The I and the D and the P, man. That's.
But if the P is there, is not someone gonna know that something's in their way? It depends on how much money you spend.
No, it depends on how smart the blue team is looking at it.
Right? I ended up teaching that class outside at the smoke pit to anybody that came out and talked to me. They all got A's or A pluses. I got an A- because I argued with the instructor.
Yeah.
Legitimately, that's the only reason.
Academia
and all the everybody else knew. Like the one girl that or one woman that me and her talked a lot while we were in class. She's like, "How'd you get an A-?" And it was the only reason I didn't have a 4.0 at the time. And I was like, because she didn't like me. Because legitimately on the review, which she checked, like they got the results of before we got our final grades, I had pointed out that she was an idiot and like had no clue what she's talking about. I was like, I've been doing this shit way too long.
I'll tell you what I told my kids. And anybody in college, unless you're going to like medical school where it's highly competitive and you got to take MCATs and all that, like for your D is for diploma. Nobody cares about your GPA after you graduate. I talk about all the time. I worked with multiple people, executives in their security field who had like a bachelor's degree in biology and an MBA. Right? Like I literally know 2 people I can name off the top of my head who had that exact same format, much less everything else that you could get out there.
But here's the thing. The only place that I've ever worked that cared about your GPA was Department of Energy. And I refuse to.
Maybe your first job I can see, but yeah.
But no, so I had been working there as a subcontractor. We're not going to name where, but I was a subcontractor doing desktop support, or hardware support rather. So replacing just the internals of their desktops that they kept breaking because they would run AutoCAD and all this other stuff, but closed off all the ventilation. And we're like, why is my stuff overheating? Because you got no airflow, my guy. So they posted a job for help desk, and I went to the guy that was hiring for it, and I was like, yo, I want this job. I'm graduating like, in a semester. Let me have this job. He's like, you need a 3.6 GPA. I said, well, that's not going to happen. I said, but I've been here long enough. I know more about your systems, more about how to fix your systems and everything going on than anybody you're going to hire. Yeah, but you need a 3.6 GPA. Again, that's not going to happen. So let's just go.
I know people I have worked with who have 20 plus years of experience. Literally one of the smartest people I know from a GRC compliance perspective, the guy, and even like beyond that, like he's just generally a brilliant person I know. And I was like, we need to hire him at this place I was at. And they're like, well, he doesn't have a degree. I'm like, he has 20 years of actual experience. He could be the CISO at any company that he wanted to and run any program. And you're not going to hire him as a consultant because he doesn't have a degree. No,
dude, I see that stuff. When I see degree required on any application, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to apply. Even though I have one. I have a degree in computer information systems. But that's because that's more out of like my ethical standing and moral standing on it. You should not require a degree for damn near any cybersecurity job.
Well, I think
the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life have never had a degree.
It tells you, I mean, I wouldn't, I mean, there's arguments for and against, but like it tells you about the company that you're applying. And the degree being a lot of times, sometimes it's a company thing, which I think is weird because you'll have this giant retail organization that requires everybody who works at corporate or over a certain pay grade to have a degree. And I'm like, well, that's just, and again, it's arbitrary. Here's the thing. I just said it, like right now, everybody who's getting into the industry is going to have it really tough. But once they're in like management positions and Gen Z and more millennials are running things, a lot of that arbitrary, this is the way we do things, BS is going to go out, and we're going to start hiring smart people to do good work.
Well, and we've seen that in the military, right? Like even in the military,
we'll train anybody. I give a shit what your background is.
You will, but at the same time, when you get to a unit or you get into certain areas, well, so why do we got to do this? Well, we've always done it that way.
Yeah,
that doesn't make it like efficient, good, or right.
That's the worst reason for doing anything.
Like I legitimately in the Army, in the Air Force, in civilian work, like everything. Well, why are we doing this? Well, because it's always been done that way. That is the worst excuse you can ever give me.
Yeah,
like there's better ways to do things, and if you're not willing to go out, and I put this on a lot of junior people too, because there's a lot of millennials, I would say, that are giving good advice as to how to get into the workforce. If you're not willing to go out there and learn kind of the way around any of your situations, and you're just going by, I'm going to go to this job board, I'm going to apply, and I'm going to get it, dude, you're completely missing the mark. Completely missing. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm all for it. Like I in the past have applied for jobs and like been on LinkedIn or on ZipRecruiter and half the other ones and been like, yeah, I'm going to apply. But these days, you either get in really good with a cybersecurity recruiter that knows their shit. I got my first really good job out of the Army going through Bradley Morris, because that is all they went after was veteran cybersecurity professionals. That was their whole niche. So their recruiters were cybersecurity people that just happen to be recruiters. One of them actually is still a buddy of mine. I still talk to him. He's the one that got me my job, is working at cybersecurity job now. He left recruiting. Mm-hmm. But like, you have to go around the system. Hacking is all about that. If you're getting into cybersecurity and you're like, I'm a hacker, then hack the system. You got to game the system. That's the only way to do it. And people are afraid to do that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, because there are so many bad recruiters, but like I'll name names. You have Stewart over at Hampton North. You got Pete Strauss, and you got Chris Rides, or a couple off the top of my head I can think of. If you connect with those folks, like, because you said those recruiters, they know, like, if I have a serious need for security talent, I go to a recruiter, I'm going to get way better results much faster, unless the caveat being, if I'm a security firm, right? So if my whole company does nothing but security, then my TA is going to be, they should be trained to find security. But even then, like, we've seen it at places we've worked and interacted in the past. Sometimes the manager doesn't know what they need, right? Or they think they know.
That's the hardest part. Like, especially when you're looking at it, my entire career, with the exception of my very first job, has been in managed services. And I find that a lot in managed service, because they start looking for the technology they're supporting at that time. And they're like, oh, I need an analyst or an engineer or whatever for this specific technology. But then partnerships change, things change. And that person has only had a mindset for that tech stack, that now when you bring something new on, they don't know what to do. They're like, I haven't touched it. The reason I got hired as a engineer it was my second job out of the Army, was because they knew I had the ability to learn. Because and that was the one thing I impressed upon them, is like, look, you show me any software, give me a week, I will learn that bitch to a T. And that's why I got hired. Like, I was confident in my ability. But I think that's the other the other thing that we're missing right now in security is confidence. People go into these interviews, they're afraid to say, I don't know, and they're not confident about their answers. So when they do know something, it's like giving them a test, and it's like, well, I think maybe it might be, so in my experience, it has been X, Y, and Z. No, say that with your full chest. Like, this is what I know. I'm confident in this. And I think that we see that a lot, is the lack of confidence in how we communicate.
Yeah, and the ability to learn is so important. And I hate to say this, but that is what that's what the college degree basically says.
Yeah.
It says I know how to learn. It says, hey, I spent 2-4 years learning how to do this stuff and listen to other people, and was able to.
I think certifications say that more than a degree does.
I think it's different. It's because
here's the thing, and I'm gonna bring this to you. I think in this industry, to get further, you need certifications, because cybersecurity is constantly changing. It is always moving. It is a moving target between adversarial and blue team and AI and everything. It's changing all the time. When you get certifications, it shows you that you can learn basically from a fire hose. You can literally learn quickly and adapt. Whereas a degree program, you have months and months of like building up and getting there and eventually learning. Especially SANS, and I hate to say that because SANS is so expensive.
It's so good though.
Well, it is. I love the business side.
But SANS is the risk. Like they give you that risk perspective that so many people lack, especially if you got into this industry because you wanted to be a hacker. But yeah, it is super expensive. But also, you take your tests with notes, like a real person would do their job. Like you have access
which is funny because like going through the military, going through the Army 25 Delta program, we had SANS courses and got to take our tests with notes. I barely looked at mine. Like I legitimately went through those tests
because you did a good job making the notes.
For me, it was just I had been doing it on my own for so long. So because I had been doing it for so long on my own, it was easier. But that's not to take away from the people that needed the notes. It's just that, to your point, we're always going to have in this industry, for as long as the internet and cybersecurity exists, you're going to have search engines. You're going to have a way to look things up. And you've got to be able to do it on the fly. And that's why I love SANS for that premise. And their instructors have to still be doing the job. Their full-time job is not instructing. It is actually running a business, doing cybersecurity.
Way smarter than
being an engineer, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you see this, it's funny because you'll see it in other industries, especially areas like finance and business management. Like the people who are in the university teaching it versus the people who are out in the world doing it. It's the what's the movie?
Well, it's what they say: if you can't do, teach.
Well, right, but
what's the only place where if you can do, teach.
With Rodney Dangerfield, Back to School, where he's having. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. It's hilarious. But there, Rodney Dangerfield, who's been, he's in his he's an old dude. He's had a business forever. And he's sitting in this class about business management and he's doing all the finance numbers. And he's like, wait, where's the money to pay off the Teamsters? Where's the money to pay off the electrician? Where's the money to run? He's like, you're not getting any permits through like this. This whole financial plan is bullshit.
But when I look at SANS, I think I despise the cost of their course, but I understand it. Because the only reason I despise it is because now organizations have picked up things like GSEC or some of their more basic certifications, like, oh, these are required for this entry-level job. And that's where I have a problem. Because you cannot get a GSEC for less than several $1,000s. It is impossible. If it's possible, please inform me.
Here's the thing,
my understanding,
I don't even know that you need it though. Like it depends. So I'll give you a similar story. The reason I have a master's degree in information security management is because when I was 10 years in the industry, knowing I wanted to be an executive, specifically at the time of CISO, I reached out to other CISOs and they were like, you need an advanced degree to become an executive. So that's why I did it. And I think a lot of the other there are certifications you need to get in the entry level. There are certifications you need to get. So I think a lot of that comes with where are you at in your career? Like at this stage of my career, I'm not paying for any more certifications.
Oh, me neither.
You know what I mean?
Dude, my CISP, because here's the thing that I despise about some of these certifications. They're like, you need to get CEUs and pay an annual fee. Cool, except for the fact that I work in this industry. My whole job revolves around research and working in this industry. Oh, but you still need to go to webinars and submit everything. Yeah, like do all this.
Which is all bullshit because all they care about is the money anyway. So they don't really care what you do.
So my CISP, which is the managerial certification, right, is now officially it's at a point where I had it, but I no longer have it because even I'm in their system for probably another, I think, year or so. I forget how long it is, but I didn't get the CEUs. So when I went to pay for my renewal, they were like, "Oh, you don't have the credits to renew," and I was like, "Okay." I'm not going out of my way. I got a wife. I got 5 kids. I got a full-time job in this industry doing this job. I got a show that talks about this job. No.
Well, so that's the thing. Like you get like 20 hours a year just for doing this show. Like
only no.
Because it's contributing to the industry.
The only credits you get for a podcast is the research hours you put into doing the episode.
Here's my thing with CPE.
And you got to prove it.
They don't scrutinize it very much. And most of us spend enough time outside of our daily work to get them. My biggest gripe is just the pain in the ass it is to go and put them in every year when I renew it.
That's really what it comes down to.
Remember,
but like if my full job is a security, like a practice manager for a security engineering team, I work for an MSSP. I have to constantly research new and emerging threats. I have to constantly keep up on all this stuff. Now I got to go put all that shit in.
All you got to do is go to a few conferences a year, let a few vendors present to you. I do volunteer work too, like
well, and that's the biggest thing for me is like conferences.
Yeah.
Like I go to a lot of them. Well, I used to. I don't anymore. I need to start going to more. I'm trying to, I usually only go if I'm speaking. So in the past few years, I've been like one. And that was, I go to B-Sides Pittsburgh every year. Let's be fair. That's right by me. So
I submitted my
CFP.
I submitted my CFPs today for 2 talks. So we'll see if they get picked up.
Yeah, I did 3. So I got B-Sides Pittsburgh, B-Sides NOLA, and TEDx.
So I did Pittsburgh, Flood City. I'm waiting for Philly. I did Harrisburg. I got halfway accepted to present at Baltimore, and then I'll do New York City too. I'm excited about New York.
Well, you're closer to that side because I'm on.
Yeah,
on the
my
west
train
side.
station. Yeah. I can get anywhere. Yeah, because the train station originates here, so I can get it. Yeah, like New York's, but New York has an entrepreneur track too. So there's people who want to like start businesses, which gives me like something I could present something different.
Which is another thing I think a lot of people in this industry miss out on. You can legitimately start a business as a junior. You could just be breaking in, but if you've done the self-training, if you do the labs that everybody preaches, like your lab work, you're building a home lab and doing pen testing and you know OSCP and all this other stuff that is entry level. If you do that, you can start your own business as a consulting, just knowing the fundamentals of cybersecurity.
I've started doing advisory work for like MSPs. And so I'm in a couple of different groups and discords and things that exist where there's all these MSP organizations, and so many of them like 1 or 2 people, so and they're like servicing small businesses, and they have a couple of laptops. I was at a brewery the other day, and I was talking with one of my connection
while over a beer.
Yeah, and the bartender was literally like, I have an MSP. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I manage like Defender Endpoint and a couple of other security things for these 2 or 3 small businesses around my area. He's like, it takes, I spend like 10 hours a week on it. I was like, when I think MSP and MSSP, you think of all these big, huge companies doing all this stuff. Dude, there's just people out there just managing shit.
But what I love about that is, and that's been my biggest gripe, is you work at when you get into this industry and you start breaking in and working for these MSSPs and MSPs, they're talking, you got to have several hundred employees, you got to do and they're working enterprise and trying to make millions and billions of dollars and all this other stuff. And so they miss out on that small business mom and pop. The small business, truly small business that you're looking at like 3, maybe 10 employees at the most. They're the ones that can get taken advantage of the easiest. They're not given the training,
destroy their business.
Oh yeah, like they're not given the training. They can't afford no before. They don't understand all this stuff going on. So like to me, being able to understand that even if it's a side business, go help out the restaurant down the street that has a small kitchen and 3 waitresses and a hostess.
Yeah. Your local school district, your dentist office, all of that stuff, the lawyer, all the law firms, they all have, again, it's, and there's, you can scale that. It's a great way. Like I've known people to, eventually build up enough of that business that they were able to sell it off, because at some point you get enough book of business, you got enough clients, somebody else wants them, they'll pay for it for the clients, and then you can cash out.
So. Yeah. And so there's ways to do it. I think that's my biggest issue with this industry right now, personally, is seeing the small businesses kind of get shafted, because not a lot of people want to go into business to deal with small business. They want the big bucks.
Yeah. So here's what I see a lot in the, so one, I'll tell you, like I've been pretty close to like Microsoft in the past. and they are very much focused on the small business market, but they're not directly addressing it. So they have, because like they have what they call their SMC space, their small medium corporations, which includes like, and some of those SMC businesses are still making $1 billion. They just only have a few hundred, a small size of people, but they know they have to capture that market because there's so many other providers and technologies out there, or they just don't have that awareness, but they're not managing that. So that's a huge opportunity for people who have that connection and can find those partnerships and that channel into that. And then you've got, I get a lot of startups, and a lot of startups, like you said, they do want to just be a unicorn and sell out. But I've had probably 50% of the ones I've seen in the last year have come to me and been like, we've got this small business easy button. We're going to give everybody security. So I'm like, you've got the right mindset. That's cool. So there is a lot of, and the great thing about that is there are so many, like even just in security and what we can be doing as an industry, there's so much room for growth, whether you want to be niche or big. And then on top of that, you look at like how many people need the help. Like there's enough clients to go around, folks. Like if you got a good idea,
everybody needs the help. Like let's be real. Like from the smallest 1 and 2 person business to the largest enterprise. I feel like the small business gets the shaft, because even look at like cloud pricing, right? It's like, oh, pay as you go. And it's like, yeah, but if I run something like Sentinel or anything that is, based on how much I take in, like that price is going to get up there, or how much you save.
They're not doing that. Well, that's what you have Alien Vault for, and Huntress and stuff like that that's out there, right? You've got other solutions.
Yeah, like, and that's when you get to your MDRs and things of that nature. But again, it's just, I don't know. I think when I look at a lot of these organizations, I think they price out small businesses. I do. I think that your small 1 to 10 person business, people are like, oh, well, you don't need X, Y, and Z. You don't need, this at the third. And it's like, but they do. How many people get owned based on the fact that they don't have any security? They have, a what do you call it? Not commercial antivirus, like basically buying something.
Like an endpoint. Yeah, they're not using actual endpoint tools. They're using, So here's like, I think that's a huge opportunity for people. Now, here's the thing, right? Because I am a VCISO, field CISO, whatever you want to, like, so I do have those people as clients of mine, and and there are a lot of people who go around saying they're CISO, VCISOs without actually having the ability to do it. But if you do understand how to build a security program, write policies, and actually advise these, you don't have to call yourself a VCISO. You can just be a security consultant, right? And and there are enough of these businesses that have 20, 30 people and 2 servers in the closet. If you've got half a brain, like you can figure out what to do, right? And help them and guide them along, and you can easily build a business out of that.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is like just being able, but again, so for all those trying to break in, my biggest
we've diverged a bit
is like, don't expect to be, even if you start a business, no matter how you get in, don't expect to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just getting into the industry. Yes, there's going to be, and I blame this on the certification industry, right? Who has claimed, oh, you can make $100,000 a year or 150. I'll get you 6 figures in a year. Da da da. That's not always the case. That's very rare on the case, is that you'll make that much right away. I mean, even with all the training I got out of the military, I had 4 or 5 SAN certifications, a degree, and my military experience. My first job out of the Army was making $62,000 a year.
Yeah, I got out in 2007 with 8 years of experience, my bachelor's degree. I worked for a couple of years. I got my CISP. I started working I worked at my second consulting firm. I was probably 12, years in before I broke six figures. Now back then that was a bigger deal than it is now, like with inflation and all. But then immediately, but then a few years later, you got to like, the goal that you want to hit at, and it's like, and then since then it's been great. But well, then the problem is when you're at the top of the line. One of our old colleagues told me this when you're at the top of the spreadsheet and they sort it by salary, you're at the top, you're the first to go.
Yep.
So there are bad things to being paid the most.
But at the end of the day, when you look at things like, so I hit six figures in my second job, and it wasn't when I first started. It was after I got a raise my 1 year in. And it was my second job out of the Army. So it took me probably about 3 years out of the Army to hit six figures. But again, that's with the experience I put 13 years of my life into the military.
Yeah.
Like I had put in the time, I had done everything. So people need to understand, and I think breaking into this industry, there's such a stigma around, oh, you'll make six figures. You'll be able to do this. You'll be able to do that. Dude, bite the elephant, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Just break in. Take that 60K a year a job. Take that 70K a year a job, and break in. Then worry about. My dad outright told me, he was like, the reason you didn't get this job was because of your salary you asked for. Because he knew the guy that was interviewing me.
I literally recorded a podcast yesterday with somebody, and we got into this conversation about, because I was super ambitious. Like when I decided I was going to be in security, I was like, I'm going to be a CISO. I'm going to be at the top of the list. And all I did was like chase the money, chase the title, and then at a certain point, you realize like, this isn't making me happy. This isn't what I want. Like, okay, I can go make an extra 20K doing this thing, but like, I'd rather at this stage of my career, or even like, and I figured it out way earlier than now, but it's like, well, I'd rather go do this and be happy than go make this money doing the work I like right now. I do CISO work. I don't like doing CISO work. It's not fun to me.
So there's two things to it, and John points one thing out, and then I'm gonna point out another.
Yeah,
the average salary by certification surveys are what started misconceptions about what you can get paid. People don't understand those numbers are based on the tens of thousands of people responding, which is true. The other thing is people don't take into account location.
No, I was gonna just mention. So I literally looked at a survey last year that was done by, and so just so everybody knows, like, I know a lot of CISOs. I know a lot of executives across the globe, from like huge companies to small companies. I know what I've been offered to work at other places. I've seen salary reports that everybody puts together. I saw one that was put together, and the average salary for the CISOs they were all seven figures. Like most of them had like a base of 600K or higher. Some had bonuses. They were getting 7 or 8 figures. And I was like, what the hell? This is crazy. So I dug into the data. They only pulled about like 40 people, and most were in the Northeast US. Yeah. So sure, the guy who's the CISO for Bank of America, who makes $4 million a year and has a board seat, is going to skew all of those results. But for every one of him, there's 500 CISOs working at a 200-person company making, 150 grand a year or whatever.
Yeah. And that's really the big thing. And the other thing is, when you talk about location, I had this argument with Google, and I was talking to another friend Google, about it.
With Gemini or with actually Google?
With Google. I was at a B-Sides conference. I was at B-Sides Pittsburgh. So it was one of their engineers, or I don't know, salespeople or whatever, whoever works the boost for them. But I had a conversation with him, and I was actually talking to Ryan Rosado, a good friend of ours.
Yeah.
Recently. And I said, Google will pay based on location. So if you live in California, or wherever their headquarters are, I don't know. I always forget, between there and Seattle, there's always, I always forget.
It's all north. It's Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. So like, California. They're like, oh, we'll pay, several $100,000. Like we're talking $300,000 a year for whatever job.
Poverty level in San Francisco.
Right. So, but you get daycare for free. They have everything at their site. You basically can live on campus for the most part. and they're paying you $300,000 a year. I'm like, all right, cool. I want California salary in Pittsburgh. And the guy that I was talking to was like, well, no, it's based on where you live. I'm like, oh, no. If you're going to hire me, I know you can afford this and you're providing everything. You don't have to provide me shit.
Yeah.
Just pay me what you're
I'm
paying.
I'm going to save you the money and I'll let it. Here's the reason. Here's the thing, though. The real secret behind all of the like ping pong tables and free coffee at work is because the more comfortable you are at work, the longer you'll stay there.
Yeah.
So you want to get into mental health? I'm like, you and I probably both learned. I know I learned way too late in my career that like, man, you stop working more than 8 hours a day, man. If you can't get it done.
I literally got to a point. So let's kind of transition this into people that are breaking into the industry to a mental health standpoint. Again, because we're talking about career journeys and things like that. The one thing I will say is early on in your career, whether you're in GRC, analyst, or anything like that, you're going to have a shit balance in your career. You're going to be on call. You're going to have to work long hours. It happens. But the time you get off, please stop working. Take your PTO and cut everything off. Because if you were off, you're off. Now, if you're on call, you're on call. You need to maintain that. But if you're off, you're off. I think, and I push balance of life, work, and family and all this stuff a lot. And I know I do. But one of the things people misconstrue is it takes years to get to a point where you can literally cut off at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's effort, and it's all because there's so much. Well, one, there's a for those of us who work at, I'll generalize, but most of us all have a similar mental mindset of like overperforming, hyperfixating, just being the best and detail oriented. And when we do that, like we're never doing good enough, right? So we always all want to work too much to just prove. And it honestly, none of us are doing it for like, most of us don't care about I don't need my manager or my boss to tell me, oh, you did it. Thanks for doing all that extra work. No, we do it to make ourselves feel good. So when you go to take time off, it's hard. And what I learned, and this took me a while. Any work apps I had on my phone, I would literally turn off notifications when I went on vacation. So when I took vacation, I would be like, nope, I am no longer allowed to get notifications on Outlook from here. And like if somebody texts me, then they know it's an emergency, but usually they won't. But
that's the big thing, right? So let's just say you're an entry-level SOC analyst. Mm-hmm. You're on call this week. This is your week on call for any alerts coming in. So what I advise in those situations, if you're on call, that means you're on call. That doesn't mean your team should be going off and you're answering everything. That doesn't mean your email is triggering and you should look at everything. It means you're on call. When they call you, you answer. You respond. You do what you need to do. On call is on call. But to your point, when I was in the Army, I was always on call. I legitimately had been about 3 beers deep sitting at my grill grilling something when I got a call about another NCO soldier. And I was like, yo, let me get a hold of this cat. Like this ain't gonna fly because he ain't mine. I already drank.
You're not on duty. He's not your guy. What the hell, man? Like there's no other fucking NCO to take care of this cat.
So I finally got a hold of his NCO and I was like, yo, homie, go deal with this shit. Because if I got to deal with you, because I was in charge of my area at that time. I wasn't an E6. I wasn't a staff sergeant at the time, but I was in charge of that area because we didn't have one. And I was like, look, if I got to go deal with this, me and you are going to have problems, and I'm going to take that shit to the director. It took a few phone calls to get through to him to say that, but I did it. But, like, for me, I struggle. The only time I have ever actually turned off notifications Now I will keep getting notifications and check every so often. One, because I hate getting back to work buried in shit. Two, because I just want to keep up on stuff that's going on.
Well, see,
but
and that's a different, like, for me, my problem was, like, if I saw the email come in, I'm an email box 0 guy. So, like, if I see the email
I
come
changed
in,
from that. Dude, you should see
I have
mine
to
right
look at
now. Between the two that I have, you should fucking see it.
So I'm like, when I go on vacation, I get no notifications, because when I'm fine coming back to 600 whatever emails, I'll go through them because only like 5 matter usually. But
Yeah. Yeah, so what I did the first time ever, and this is why I impress upon others. Look, it's one of those do as I say, not as I do type of things. Now, I will not respond to every message or every email or anything like that. But
lucky
if
you.
I'm going away with family, so I guess it's a matter of whether I'm going away or if I'm just taking PTO just to clear my head. Like two completely different things.
Well, but at the but to that point, like, because like, especially like when I work somewhere that has unlimited PTO, I'll take multiple days off a month all the time. I'll be like, you know what, I'm taking Wednesday off. I'm gonna do. But if somebody calls me, that's fine. That's different than like, hey, I'm gonna go fucking put my feet in grass and leave me alone. Then I gotta disconnect.
Yeah, so 2020 was the first time ever in my career, in my life. Look, social media has been my outlet since actually probably 2020 when I started the show. But I forget what month it was, we went to Tennessee. I went with my parents, my sisters, my wife, my kids, everybody. I legitimately killed every notification. The only way you could get a hold of me was if you text me or called me. I killed all social media, all work, all everything. Everything got turned off. That was the best feeling ever in my life. In my life.
To be able to actually sit and relax, like, and not have,
And people need to understand that. Like, but I think it goes beyond work. Even with PTO, kill your social media notifications. Quit relying so much on this concept of always connected. Put the damn phone down. Like, legitimately put it down, put it away. Now, if you're traveling and you need, in case of emergency, cool, but put it away. In this industry, we literally rely on fucking everything. Put it away if you're on PTO. You do not need to be getting a hold of.
Hey,
put it away.
So William said something about his employer. Click on that one.
Which one?
The employer, when
the
the employer
one?
A budget. Yeah. So this is super smart. So a couple of things. One, if there's events you want to go to, let your management know that ahead of time so that they can budget for it. Because most of the time, most companies are going to be okay with sending you to do that kind of stuff. But but also, to your point, like, Vegas is always cheap to get to, and things like Secure World, dude, they're all over. There's always going to be one close to you. They're like, from where I live, I can probably drive 4 hours in any direction and get to one, right?
Yeah.
So those are super, super great ways to get, like maybe you don't get the DEF CON or RSA or Black Hat, and honestly, okay.
I prefer B-sides. Go to B-sides.
Yeah, go to your local B-sides. Again, like, so Derek lives, 3 hours west of me in Pennsylvania, and there's a little town halfway between us called Jonestown that has their own B-sides event. For some reason. They do. I found out, I was like, they have their own, I guess they have like this little, because of the colleges there, and I guess they have a good community. But like for like Derek and I would know it as a ski town because there's like 2 really great ski resorts.
The smallest conference I've been to was B-side St. Pete. I spoke at that. It was the first time ever I talked at a conference, and it was their first ever conference. Was B-side St. Petersburg, Florida, and it was because you have Tampa, which is huge. Orlando was huge,
right?
But like, you got to travel to those. So St. Petersburg set up their own.
Yep. And you'll find the other thing too, I would say, look at some of your local IT and security companies. They will like the company I work for now, Appalachian Tech. They started an event, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Like, their first event, I was the keynote. did the event, and now it's like, honestly, it's like one of the premier events in my city to go to.
I've never been a keynote. Can you make me a keynote somewhere, Will?
You want network. It's the same. You know why I just submitted like 30 CFPs
Dude,
today?
I gotta submit more. I really do.
Well, and part of it's like, I never had any recordings, like, because I used to do presentations all the time, like at, whatever company I worked for. We would have events. We'd have huge events. We get people to, like, high-end places in the New England area or whatever. And then I would get there and talk about risk management to all our clients. And it was really great, but it's like, it's not a public event, so nobody ever saw me. So, like, it didn't matter. But so I need to get some of those recorded. I did talk to a guy who gave me a really good idea. He's like, just go to your local university and tell them you want to do a presentation, and then hire somebody to record it for you. And then that gives you kind of your sizzle reel. And then you can use that to get more stuff.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So, like, my B-side St. Petersburg talk is actually on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Click on Natalie B there.
I was like, and actually what I did was I recorded it myself.
Yeah, that's all. As long as I see it.
I literally took my phone, recorded it myself, and I edited it myself. It's not perfect. It's, whatever. But Nat has a question
about the CFPs.
Yeah. When submitting CFPs, are you submitting the same talk to multiple events, or are you submitting a few different talks?
So I have
the same everywhere.
So yeah, so I have I have like 4 that I've made, like, kind of created abstracts and have all the detail for. And then I basically picked the ones I think are going to work for that one. So, like, I did one on career development that got accepted for Charm City. And I've kind of done that one everywhere for B-sides, because I feel like that's a topic everybody wants to talk about. But then, like, I have other topics that are like building a security business, which are only going to matter for places that have an entrepreneur track, or for, like, MSPs that want to build security capabilities.
Yeah.
And then, like, for Secure World, I did like building a security program, like, so the whole end-to-end process, like, so CISO stuff. So I think it depends on so you can absolutely submit the same one to a bunch of different people for sure. But I will say, read the CFP, because, like, what Derek was just about, when I did the one for Pittsburgh, they literally ask for specific stuff in the
I did it
for you to tell them. That's not anything you put in any other one. So, like, the one I did for Harrisburg was just like, give us the outline. The one in Pittsburgh wanted to know, like, the flow and how much different topics and what you're going to. So, like, you have to, like, so it's not just cut and paste.
Yeah, no, it's not. But here's the thing, like, for me, so what I'm going to change about mine and what I'm going to do this year, if I get picked up for any, I'm not doing slides. I will do 2 slides, and it'll be an intro, it'll be the title slide and then how to connect with me slide. I don't, because my talks are not cybersecurity oriented, right? It's not how to build a business, not this. It's resiliency, burnout, mental health, that type, motivation, that type of thing. And for me to talk about that, it has to be in my heart. It has to be authentic, fresh and new, not bullet points, not, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z. It's just what I'm feeling in that moment, which keeps it original. So that you will not get the same talk at every conference.
So I'm a bit, so that's something I had talked with, like, Mike Miller and Rihanna Schultz at the last event I was at with them.
Yeah, I was just talking to Rihanna. She said she was going to bitch at you if you didn't reach back out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, our podcast is the one I just did.
I love Rihanna. She's awesome.
But it's one of those things where, like, look, I have a talk, but it is never going to be the same. Like, I hate. I look, man, if you can get paid $25,000 to show up to somebody's SKO and give the same speech you gave at somebody else's, good on you for being able to, like, do that. I can't do that. I'm going to tailor it to the audience that I'm with. I'm going to speak. So to your point, like, I have, like, I will go ahead and talk about career progression, but I'm not going to memorize everything. It's going to be different every time.
And
I'm going to have things I learned that last week.
but Will, which, by the way, you haven't tagged me in a post yet. When the fuck is my podcast episode coming out? Damn it, you're behind.
Well, I can check. I would log into StreamYard, but I'm already on StreamYard. I'm usually about 10 weeks behind. So you're probably pretty close.
All right, I think I'm getting up there. I've been like watching your posts. All right.
When I started it, it was kind of like really easy to get people on, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna release one a week, and I've recorded like 26 episodes, and I think we're
Which, if you're not following the Keyboard Samurai on YouTube and all these other things, please go do so. But no, so we are at the top of the hour, but I do want to say this: like, you can make jokes. This at the third interpretive theater of the topic. I love John; he's hilarious.
Yeah,
John goes a riot, but for me, just like my short form content, so I have stepped away from cybersecurity content with the exception of this show. I bring people on that know more than I do. They can talk more about their specific area than I can for a particular purpose. I believe it's still valid and needs to be heard.
Gives you more.
For me, it's about mental health, motivation, and being your authentic self. And so, with that, that's how all of my speeches in at conferences are going to go. Is I'm going to be me, talk to the audience as the audience they are, which is if you're entry level, mid level, executive level, it doesn't matter, because we all feel the same things. It's just speaking in a different way. So to have a PowerPoint or some speech built out, it just doesn't work. You have to interact with everybody differently.
100%. 100.
So with that, it is 8:01. Will, any last minute advice, questions, comments, whatever, anything you want to say to people trying to break in?
Yeah, I will say this. The one thing I didn't get to, that if you come to one of the events I speak at when I talk about the career planning, or if you just reach out to me, I'll tell you too. Like, once you get in, that's great. You've made the first step. That it does not stop there. You have to plan forward, and it is not a linear path in our industry. There are people. I worked with people. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was in a room with really thick walls and lots of red wires with one other guy.
Oh my
God. and that guy had done his same job for like 30 years and still does it today. And he's super happy, one of my best friends, and that's amazing for him. But a guy like me, shit needs to change on a regular basis. So all I'm saying is, like, you got to plan out what you're going to do next, and you got to make sure that your management knows that, and you got to know, when's the time to jump or move. And so, think about your career a lot sooner than you really think you should.
Yeah, most definitely. So, like, what I'm going to tell people is this: as you're breaking in, as you're going about your career, understand that this is not the old days of pensions. Build your career as you see fit. If you need to change track, if you need to change ideas, if you need to change companies, you are no longer siloed to being with the same organization for 50 years. It does not exist. Now, if they are taking care of you, if they're giving you raises more than just cost of living, because let's be fair, that changes all the time, but their percentages stay the same. If you're getting promoted, if they care about your mental health, your physical health. Where I work now, it's physical, family, mental health first. Like, take care of yourself. The work will come, right? It's always going to be there. Make sure you're with a company that's going to take care of you, because your health, your well-being comes before anything. Other than that, keep driving forward, keep pursuing your dreams, your goals, everything you're going for. And look, with that being said, for all those out there, happy Friday. Cheers. And I hope you enjoy your weekend. Take care. And I'll see you next week with another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour.